In this video, I want to share with you my origin story, not from an egotistical point of view or to boast about anything that I've ever done, but more to assist or help you in discovering that in life, in business and in life, but particularly when you're doing a business or trying to run a business, there's going to be ups and downs, and you take the rough with the smooth, and sometimes the very best thing you can do is pick yourself up and have the right attitude and keep plowing ahead. My origin story will probably be of interest to you because it's quite an unusual one. It's not the typical story that you might hear, or career path or career progression from a solicitor. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So my background is I did a commerce degree in UCD way back in the day, and after graduating I couldn't get a job. Things were very, very bad in the early 80s and couldn't get a job. Eventually I ended up getting a job as a company accountant or trainee accountant or whatever, but I couldn't stand it. I hated it. I hated accountancy. I always wanted to do business or law. So when I was 23, I set up my first business along with my brother in Hart's Corner in Glasnevin in Dublin. That's a photograph there of the shop. So this is 6th of December 1986 when I started in business with my brother. We worked like absolute dogs, like mules, from 7 in the morning until 12 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. We pushed a hand cart, a hand trolley, up and down Lindsay Road, Botanic Avenue, all around Glasnevin and Phibsborough, delivering briquettes and coal and gas and so on to girls up from the country living in flats there, working in the Mater Hospital or working in the prison service or working as in the public service in Dublin. But that was from the 6th of December 1986. We actually did really well. We drove the business way up and we sold it off, and we then in 1989, about 2 to 3 years later, I ended up moving to Navan and I developed or built up this business. This is a newsagent's convenience store in Glasnevin. That was 1989. Traded there for a few years then, and I ended up moving to back home. My father wanted to retire. He had a small petrol station and business in Enfield in County Meath, Shell filling station. I moved back in, I'm just looking at the dates, in 1996 I moved back to Enfield, bought the business off him, developed it, and this is just at the beginning of the development stage of that particular business. So I was there from 1996 running that business, developing it. Did a deal with the oil company, built it up and did quite well. I sold that business then in 1996 because the time demands on me of 4 kids I found very, very difficult, and had enough of retailing. Retailing is a tough game. It's a great game in one way, insofar as you have or should have positive cash flow all the time, and cash is king. But in another way, the time demands on you are very, very serious, and if you have a young family, then you can look at or see better ways of doing, spending your time, spending your life. So in 1996 I moved to Enfield, and then in 2006 I sold that place in Enfield and I bought a site in Edgeworthstown in County Longford to build apartments. I had always been tricking around with property, buying properties, doing them up, developing them, flipping them, all sorts of sort of property development and general speculation, but always fairly soundly based speculation, in that there was always a sound asset at the back of whatever investment I might make. I bought the site in Edgeworthstown in 2006, and the idea was that I'd get in and out fairly quickly, ride the property boom and make a few bob and see what I wanted to do then with the rest of my life. However, the property market and I put a photo on the screen there actually of the development in Edgeworthstown. It's a block of 8 apartments. I still actually have them. But the idea was to get in and out. That didn't work. The market crashed, and with them crashing the market, I literally lost everything. So from 1986 to 2009 or thereabouts, over 20 years' work went down the tubes. I had nothing. And I had no prospects either. I'd lost everything, and I was absolutely up to my eyeballs in debt with the bank. So I ended up deciding in my early to mid 40s that I was going to go back to college and do law, but I had to get into the Law Society in order to become apprenticed as a solicitor and then qualify hopefully as a solicitor. But I hadn't done an exam in 20 or 25 years. In fact, I hadn't done an exam since I graduated from UCD in, I think, 1983. So it was a quarter of a century probably since I did an exam. So I took to my garage at home. I had nothing else. My back was to the wall. I went into the garage. I bought a buttload of books about law. I enrolled in Griffith College. I did a very, very quick, fast-track sort of intensive study course there for about 3 months in preparation for the entrance exams to the Law Society. When your back is to the wall and when you have the right attitude, things can work out for you. And thankfully, they worked out for me, because even though I was doing my first exam or exams in about 25 years, I actually sat the 8 FE1 exams and passed them, got into the Law Society and became apprenticed as a solicitor then, and a couple of years later I qualified as a solicitor. So as you can see, I've had ups and downs, mainly ups, but then one catastrophic down, one catastrophic crash in 2009 or 10 or thereabouts, when the property market in Ireland absolutely tanked. And when the tide goes out and you're stuck in a particular market, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So if you don't believe me, you can ask Tony O'Reilly or Sean Quinn, two of the wealthiest men in Ireland who later became bankrupted as a direct or indirect consequence of the crash in the property market. But the bottom line is, nowadays I have my own solicitor's practice. After qualifying obviously as a solicitor, I have my own little solicitor's practice in Enfield, and it's going quite well. But this video, I hope, will show you that you can have ups and downs, but if you do have the right attitude, then you can get on and you can recover, and things are never entirely fatal provided you have your health and so on. So that's absolutely critical. The right attitude, I believe very, very strongly, is critical as well. And I've ranted on, and I've gone on in some of these videos before about having the right attitude and about having the right response to crisis. And the book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, he was a concentration camp survivor, but his findings, he was a psychiatrist, I think, from Vienna. His findings about how people who were in concentration camps responded to their circumstances is one of the guiding principles in my life. I'm not saying that I'm a concentration camp survivor, not for a minute, but I'm just making the point that how you choose to react to your circumstances. You can't dictate your circumstances, you can't dictate your surroundings, but you can choose how you respond to downturns and wipeouts and adverse situations occurring. Hope you find this video useful. If you do, give it a thumbs up down below, and you may be interested in subscribing to my YouTube channel. I make videos fairly regularly, twice a week in fact, Wednesday and Saturday, and whether people find them useful enough, but whether they are or not is another thing. I keep showing up though, I keep making the videos, I have something to say. You might find it useful. If you do, well and good, give it a thumbs up down below. If you don't, well, what the hell.